Greetings and salutations again from Magalang, Philippines. I wanted to talk to you today a little about transportation and what transportation means. Boy, if you look at history and history of the world, transportation really revolutionized the whole world in itself. People started migrating, people started using horses and different pack animals to move from place to place, and transportation really equates to independence and economic freedom, and that is one of the reasons why I moved myself and my family here to the Philippines. So in talking about transportation, there's a lot of videos out there that people talk about their budgets in the Philippines, and I really kind of looked at it as one of my study guides on what I needed to be prepared for and what I need to prepare before coming to the Philippines. And of course, the number one expense I saw in most everybody's videos was housing. So 2 years ago, my wife and I started talking about moving to the Philippines, and of course my wife is Filipina, and she's originally from here, and we found a place here in Magalang, and we purchased it about 2 years ago, which was 4 years ago? 2 years ago. About 2 years ago. We had a really good time. The market prior to the pandemic, the Philippines was on a steep incline when it came to property values, but of course the pandemic hit and the bottom dropped out. So we got in at a really good time, just when the pandemic was coming to an end, and we jumped in and got a pretty good deal on this house. So we eliminated that one expense, the major expense everybody talked about. You know, where are you going to live, your rent, you're going to buy a condo, this, that, and the other thing. Yes, I understand, I'm a foreigner, I cannot own property, I cannot land here in the Philippines. My wife and I have been together for about 13 years. I'm not worried about anything going wrong with that. And even if it did, my name is on the property, you know, something like I own the house, she owns the property or land, whatever it may be. Again, not something I'm worried about. So we took care of the expense when it came to housing. And second and third on the lists were always 1 and 2, they go back and forth, was food, and I'll talk about that on a later video, food or electricity. So I started thinking, okay, because I did a comparison to dollars or cents per kilowatt hour in the United States compared to the Philippines, and depending on where you live in the United States, it's comparable. Now, the one difference here in the Philippines is it is hot. It is extremely hot. So I wanted to make sure that me and my family are comfortable. And don't get me wrong, I lived in Florida for most of my young life. I lived in a house in Florida with no air conditioning. It was not fun. I've been through many hurricanes that go through when you're end up being out of power for a week, 2 weeks, months at a time. Again, it's not fun. So I wanted to figure out how I can mitigate my electric. Again, I have a background in a lot of the stuff that I'll be talking about. I went with solar. We put solar last year on our house because we had finally decided that we knew we were going to be living in the Philippines within the next year or two. We overbuilt our solar system, so we've got more juice than we need. And there is a program here in the Philippines where you can join with the electric company and sell your energy back to the company but you don't get money back, you get credit back. Well, if I don't use any of their electricity, then the credit wouldn't do me any good. So I haven't studied that program well enough to understand it completely, so in the future I will look into that to see if it really would benefit me and my family to get involved with that program. So we've had this system in place for about a year now. Now, of course, my wife and I weren't living here for the year, but her family would come over on weekends and run the electric because, again, you don't want it sitting idle because it will diminish your battery life. So we wanted them to come over. We wanted them to use electricity just so we could maintain the system. Now, the highest bill that we had prior to moving here was what, $8? $8? No, this is prior. This is when we weren't here, so it was about $8 a month. Now, last month, it was a bit higher because number one, we had to have them fill up the pool. So they ran our pump, filling up, the pool with water. While they were here, again, they were using air conditioning. They were using not the oven, but the refrigerator, lights, all that stuff. Then we got here and we cranked the AC. We actually had 2 ACs running at the time. One in our bedroom, which is a window unit, and then we have the one in our living room. What do they call those? Air conditioning we have in the living room? Split unit. Split unit. We have a split unit in the living room. Well, it's a living room, dining room, kitchen, all together. And last month, with all that combined, our electric bill was about $20. $20, not bad. I can live with that. So now we eliminated the top 2, working on the third expenses that I see the expats have when they move or planning to move to the Philippines. The third that I looked at was transportation. So this gets tricky. As I said in the beginning, transportation really equates to freedom and economic freedom. I was old enough and I was there when we took away my grandmother's car because she had gotten in an accident because she was too old, she shouldn't have been driving. I was there, I was old enough to understand when we took my father's car away. Same situation. I was the one that took away my mother's car because of same situation. She lived until she was 98 years old or 89 years old. Shouldn't have been driving, and and took it away. It was difficult. It was probably more difficult for my grandmother and my mother because they were very 2 independent women, and it's just hard. And I can see why. When we first got here this first month, even though we do have transportation, I didn't trust it, and I'll tell you why in a moment. So, I wanted to be able to be independent. Now, do they have transportation in the Philippines? Of course, just like anywhere else in the world. They have public transportation. You got the jeepneys, you got the trikes, you got the trains, you got airplanes, you got all of that. And, an airplane brought my wife and family here. But if you look at it more in a macro or microcosm of transportation, we're looking at what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. So what is your day-to-day travel vehicle? Is it a car, motorcycle, scooter? Is it public transportation? Well, my public transportation, because I'm outside the city limits, I'm probably about 3 kilometers from downtown Magalang. If I wanted to get a trike, I would have to walk a kilometer that away to get to the trike pickup station. That's where all the trikes will park, and the first person comes, gets the first trike, second, third, whatever, like it is. Well, if I did that, if I walked a kilometer down that road, I might as well just walk another 2 kilometers into town if that's what I wanted to do. And again, that I don't equate that to independence. I wanted to be able to have something at my house, be able to drive and get out of here. Second option was a car. I don't know. My wife and I are going back and forth on this. We probably will eventually get a vehicle. I'm not debating that. But I'm also a shopper, I'm a thinker, I'm a planner. I don't get excited about shiny objects being dangled in front of me. I want to make sure we need it. And so I wanted to go the first 6 months to a year to see really what we need. And if we do eventually getting a car, a vehicle, it's going to be what we need and not just some dangly shiny object. Third option I saw was, and I've heard a lot of the expats going with trikes or motorcycles. Yes, I've rode motorcycles. Yes, I've rode not trikes, but scooters. I'm sorry, scooters. Scooters, I rode scooters. Now, there's a saying, and hopefully all you motorcycle people, bikers, scooter people, all of this can back me up on this. There's a saying in the motorcycle and trike or scooter world that it's not if you're going to wreck, it's when you're going to wreck. With that being said, I'm getting too old to deal with stuff like that, and I'd rather be safe for myself and my family. I see families going down the road on these scooters, 3, 4 people deep with a child. You know, none of them wearing helmets. Again, that's their culture. That's what they want to do. That's fine. I'm living my culture with my family right now. Again, what I'm doing probably isn't the safest, but I'll give you the pointers on why I chose this. So as you know, I talked about it before. We bought an electric trike, and I've been driving it ever since we got here. Love it. It's not a speedster. I think top max speed is probably 40 kilometers per hour, which is about 25 miles, or 40 kilometers an hour, which equals to 25 miles per hour. Not great speed, but if you see me going out and about in the city, in the congestion, I'm keeping up with everybody else. You don't need to have something that's going to go speeding down the road. I have an old saying myself, speed kills. So I'm slow and easy. There's no place I want to go really fast. I'm retired. I can get there when I want to get there. So we got the trike, and one of my big concerns was as we were driving, hold on a second. Stop it. You can see this here, but you have the volt, oh no, this is the volts. So it's telling you how many volts you have available. This is the kilometers per hour. Now it'll switch over here to the amount of kilometers it's like an odometer, but it's a one-trip odometer. Once you turn this off, it starts back at 0 again. Now my father-in-law took this into Angley City, which is about 10 miles, 11, 12 miles maybe where he went to, and back. And you can see here, it's fully charged still. So he went about 24 miles into Angley's and back, and there's still a full bar. Now if I took this out on the road right now and started driving it, that bar might drop down to 3 bars, 2 bars, or even 1 bar. So when you're stopped and it's at 4 bars, you feel like you have full tank of juice. But as soon as you start driving, it starts dropping down. You still don't know how much farther you have to go. Okay, so I didn't feel safe running the trike all the time, running it down to 1 bar and then being stranded someplace. So instead of going out and just trashing the whole idea of having a trike, I wanted to rectify it. I already spent money. This whole trike initially cost me, what was it, $1,100? $1,100 for the trike, and I made a modification that hopefully is going to rectify my concerns with the trike. So the trike, this is the battery pack, and you have the inverter and charger right here. So what I did, you can see the wire running to the back side. What we did today was we put a new battery here, and we just had the charger so we can pull it off one battery and stick it on the other. So I will know when I have half the juice that I need to get back to where I need to come or need to be. So what I can do also is when I wear down one battery, I can come home, put that on charge, and well, put it this way: if I run down one battery and I'm getting to the point where I'm getting home, but I still have a little juice left in that battery, and my other battery pack is full, I can still run into town, and if I run out of juice, all I've got to do is switch those two wires, and I'm back to fully charged, come back home, recharge the other battery. So it's a way to be able to sustain that independence. That was my biggest problem, was being able to sustain that. So one of the issues that we talked about was having the solar power. I'm pretty much off the grid, but I'm paying for my trike electric vehicle via the electricity. So now I not only do not have an electric bill, I do not have a fuel bill. Another issue, not an issue, but a positive about the e-bike is you don't have to have a license to drive this. You don't have to have a registration. You don't have to have a license plate. So in other words, I don't have to go down to the Department of Transportation. I know it's called something different here in the Philippines. What's it called?
LTO.
LTO. I'm not going to try to translate what that means. So again, that's a headache that I don't have to deal with. The solar power is great. I know a lot of you guys might think that I did this because I'm trying to save the earth, and with all that. I am not an environmental alarmist. Please don't think that. Do I love the environment? Do I love it? By all means. I would much rather spend a day alone in the woods, in the mountains, in the desert, wherever it may be, than at any event in a big city. Hands down. No problem. So don't get me wrong, I'm not that type of person. On the other hand, I am off the grid. I'm also not necessarily what you would call a prepper. If there's an economic collapse or a world calamity or something like that, that's not necessarily what I'm planning for. I did it because of economics. It made sense to me. It was smart money-wise. And you know what? If something does happen, at least I know I will have electricity. I will be able to run my home. Again, my well, I have a well, so my water's taken care of, my electric's taken care of, and now my transportation's taken care of. Next couple videos, because it'll take me a while, I'm going to show you what I'm going to be doing to my house.